Once upon a time, there was a frog called Mr. Jeremy Fisher.
Once upon a time is one of those phrases you immediately know a story is coming, and for most people it immediately gets their attention. And that level of engagement is something that we're all looking for when we start talking about our business and trying to get our customers' attentions. Now you might be wondering why, when our business is about setting up the tools for communication, that we're actually talking about the process of communication itself. But we often find that we can give people these tools and they need a little bit of help to use them effectively. So we'll talk about stories in the business context as just a way that we can help people use the tools that we've provided in a more effective means. Well, how do we do that? Well, stories have many, many things, and we're not going to run a degree course in that in this short video. However, there are three things that we can focus on. And the first of these is that stories have a structure. They have a beginning, they have a middle, and they have an end. What they also have is tension that gets resolved. So how does that fit into a business? Well, this actually is where you resolve the problems that you solve for your customer. So you give them what one of the problem is up at the beginning, and at the end you show how it's solved, and the middle is just the process that you use to get to that point. Too often, lots of communications coming out from a business just sound like a shopping list of things that they have to provide and expect the customers to pick up on that. The third thing that we're going to consider is the audience itself, because the audience tells us how we're going to tell the story. The other two gives us the what, but the audience tells us the how. And if we're talking to kids, we would use different languages and phrases to, if we were telling a story to their parents. So that's why we need to be mindful of the audience so that we tell it in ways that connect to those people. One of our clients that we have is involved in maintaining pools, and I don't know a lot about what they actually do, but I'm just going to use their industry as an example of a story and how we can tell those stories in the business context. If we're not telling it as a story, we might start a communication with something like, we can keep your pool pumps and filters working absolutely crystal clear. If we're telling a story, we would turn that around and we'd say, people don't like to swim in algae. There's a big difference in the approach there. It gives them tension, and they immediately have a question in their mind, how do we get the algae out? Because nobody likes swimming in algae. So that's the start, the beginning. The end, the conclusion of that, we could say things like, well, to enjoy a crystal clear pool, give us a call. Whereas with the other way, it might have just been, we got all of these things in stock ready for you for when you need them. Nowhere near as attention grabbing as enjoying a crystal clear pool. Now, once we have the beginning and the end, the middle just suggests itself, because all the middle is just a way to get from the beginning through to the end. And then we need to remind ourselves the audience that we're talking to. In this case, we're probably talking to parents. We're not talking so much to kids. We're not talking to corporates on there. So the context in this case would be kids enjoying themselves in the pool or entertaining as they have guests over. We would not be talking to them about details on the mechanics of how it works. And that way we get the greatest likelihood of those people connecting. Because if you're talking about pumps and filters, that will very well get rid of the algae, and that's the mechanics to do it. But it doesn't actually connect with the people. Whereas if we're talking about kids swimming and enjoying themselves in the pool while they watch on with their friends, that makes a better connection to those people. And that's where the storytelling part comes in. This is just a very quick, rough example of telling a story. There's a lot more that would actually go into it. But if you use this as the structure and the basis for communicating for information out of your business, you will find that you'll get better value for your money, and all of the tools that we give you to do this will generate more revenue for the work they put in.